Welcome to Sean, thinking out loud from my secret hideout in beautiful Brazil. This is my daily digest, so let's just see what the day brings, shall we? Last week, the FBI made headlines by raiding the home of former National Security Advisor John Bolton. While many are quick to label this as a political revenge tour, we need to dig deeper into the reasons behind this action. When President Trump fired John Bolton in 2019, it was not just a routine dismissal. Bolton was in the midst of writing a book that promised insider revelations about his time in the administration. This book was controversial as it painted Trump in an unflattering light. Critics argue that Bolton's actions were not merely personal grievances, but could potentially jeopardize national security. In fact, at one point, a federal judge suggested that Bolton might have violated national security laws with his disclosures. This context raises questions about whether the recent raid was truly about retribution or if there were legitimate legal concerns at play. One crucial aspect often overlooked is that two federal judges approved the FBI's request to search Bolton's home. This isn't a small matter. It signifies that there were substantial grounds for suspicion. These judges are independent and disinterested parties who examined evidence before giving their consent. If they believed there was nothing significant to find, they would not have permitted such an invasive action. This suggests that something more than mere political vendetta may be motivating this investigation. There are ongoing allegations suggesting that Bolton may have improperly transferred classified information, potentially even sharing sensitive details with family members. If this is true, this could be serious and warrants further investigation beyond any past grievances he may have had with Trump or his administration. The implications here are vast. If he did share classified information unlawfully, he could face severe penalties under law, like the Espionage Act. This isn't just about old notes or memories, it raises real concerns about national security and accountability. While it's easy to jump to conclusions and label this as a revenge-driven raid against a former adversary of Trump, we must remain vigilant and consider all angles of this situation. The truth may reveal deeper issues regarding accountability and national security protocols within our government structures. Let's stay informed and engaged in these discussions because our understanding shapes our democracy. Investigating potential violations of law is vital for maintaining national security. Stay updated on developments regarding this case and engage in conversations about accountability among public officials. Boston has become a sanctuary city under Mayor Michelle Wu's leadership. This means that local law enforcement is not cooperating with federal immigration authorities. For example, Wu has publicly stated her disdain for federal officials who enforce immigration laws, claiming they disrupt our diverse communities. By refusing to work with ICE, she believes she is standing up for moral clarity and compassion. But what does this mean for the safety of our neighborhoods when local authorities ignore federal laws? It creates a rift between the government and its citizens. The political climate in Massachusetts has shifted dramatically over recent years. Once led by moderate leaders like Mitt Romney, we now see a far-left agenda dominating local governance. Michelle Wu represents this shift. She portrays anyone who disagrees with her as morally inferior or misinformed. For instance, when Attorney General Pam Bondi sent Wu a letter warning her about potential violations of federal law due to her sanctuary policies, rather than engaging constructively, Wu seized the moment to rally support from liberal media outlets. This isn't just politics, it's a dangerous game that undermines public safety. The ramifications of these policies are profound and complex. While Mayor Wu demands that ICE alert her office before any immigration sweeps occur in Boston, a request they are not legally required to fulfill, this sets up a scenario where community activists could be tipped off about federal operations. Imagine if ICE were planning an operation in Roxbury. If Wu leaked this information to activists, it could hinder law enforcement efforts and put both officers and community members at risk. We have to ask ourselves, is this really about protecting communities or playing politics? As residents of Boston and concerned citizens, we must take action against these misguided policies that jeopardize our safety and integrity as a city. Let's hold our leaders accountable for their decisions, because when it comes down to it, we all deserve to live in a safe community where laws are respected. Now more than ever is the time for us to voice our concerns and advocate for responsible governance that prioritizes public safety over political agendas. It should be noted I wrote this speech off of a podcast, so I obviously don't live in Brazil or Boston. I live in Brazil. So keep that in mind. Although, for those who do live in Boston, maybe it's time you speak up and stop voting stupid. Did you know that the United States has offered a record-breaking bounty of $50 million for Nicolas Maduro? This is significant. It's more than they offered for Osama bin Laden or Saddam Hussein. Why such a large bounty? Because Maduro is accused of leading drug trafficking operations and orchestrating rampant corruption in his country. With Venezuela responsible for about 25% of the world's cocaine supply, it's clear that this isn't just about politics. It's about global security and public safety. In recent years, U.S. authorities have seized over $70 million in assets linked to Maduro. This includes private jets and bank accounts filled with ill-gotten gains, while 80% of Venezuelans live below the poverty line. Imagine being a citizen who struggles to find food while your leader enjoys luxury at your expense. Amidst this chaos, Maduro is calling on citizens to join national militias, claiming he has activated over 4.5 million militia members ready to defend their country against perceived threats from the U.S. But independent estimates suggest that his actual military strength may only be about 100,000 poorly armed troops. In a recent speech, he urged Venezuelans to enlist at army bases and public squares, framing it as a patriotic duty akin to answering your mother's call. Yet, we must ask ourselves, is this truly defense or an attempt to consolidate power amid growing unrest? The reality is that many Venezuelans are desperate for change but fear retaliation if they oppose him. The situation in Venezuela isn't just an internal affair. It's intertwined with global interests, particularly oil. While some U.S. companies like Chevron are lobbying for renewed access to Venezuelan oil, others warn that any intervention could lead to further destabilization across South America. Venezuela was once one of the richest countries in Latin America due to its vast oil reserves, but now struggles under hyperinflation exceeding 700%. If we don't address this crisis carefully, we risk creating a vacuum where other authoritarian figures can rise in Latin America, potentially leading countries like Mexico down a similar path as Venezuela. The plight of Venezuelans reflects broader issues faced by societies under authoritarian regimes: economic collapse, human rights violations, and international implications. We cannot stand idly by as innocent lives are affected by these crises. It's time for us to advocate for change, not just through awareness, but through action. Let's unite our voices and demand our leaders take meaningful steps towards resolving this crisis. Living in South America, I can tell you the main problem is lack of education. And they don't want them well educated because then they may actually read a history book and, figure things out on their own. The introduction of specialized units aimed at crowd control is not just a matter of military presence, it reflects an urgent response to escalating violence in our urban areas. For instance, cities like Chicago have seen alarming rates of gun violence, prompting discussions about whether traditional law enforcement methods are enough. These specialized units could serve as an additional layer of support, helping local police manage large crowds during protests or riots more effectively. Historically, we've seen similar tactics employed with notable success. Giuliani's administration in New York City during the 1990s is a prime example where broken windows policing led to significant reductions in crime rates. This approach emphasized addressing minor offenses to prevent larger crimes from occurring. If we consider the current climate, deploying specialized units might echo past strategies that worked, providing immediate relief to overwhelmed local police forces. However, the deployment of these units raises valid concerns about political motivations and public perception. Critics argue that such actions could be seen as an overreach or even a tactic to influence upcoming elections, especially if they are perceived as targeting predominantly Democrat-led cities. This fear can undermine trust between communities and law enforcement agencies, making it crucial for any such initiatives to be transparent and clearly focused on public safety rather than political gain. As we navigate these complex issues surrounding public safety and governance, it's essential that we remain vigilant about how our leaders respond to crime in our neighborhoods. We must advocate for solutions that prioritize community well-being while ensuring accountability in all levels of government. Let's engage in constructive dialogue about how best to support our communities while maintaining the balance between safety and civil liberties. It's time for us to demand clarity from our leaders on their strategies moving forward. These special units have been around since I was in. I retired in 2010. This isn't anything new. I don't even think Trump understands that they've been around for a long time. He's just signing an executive order to deploy them. I personally believe this should have been done a long time ago. If a certain city's murder rate or crime rate hits a certain level, it should already kick in a certain strategic plan to deploy these units to quell the crime, or at least aid the civilian authorities in apprehending these people. The National Guard can't arrest people, but they can detain you. People don't understand that. SRTs are specifically designed to respond to high-risk incidents that pose significant threats to life and property. Imagine a scenario where an active shooter is present on a military base. In such dire situations, the regular law enforcement response may not be enough. This is where an SRT comes into play. They are trained to neutralize threats quickly and effectively using specialized tactics that are beyond standard procedures. For example, during my time in service, we faced a hostage situation where the swift actions of our SRT prevented potential loss of life and brought the crisis to a safe resolution. Another critical role of SRTs is providing installation commanders with enhanced security capabilities. Regular law enforcement may have limitations in dealing with specific military environments or unique challenges posed by sensitive operations. The SRT steps in as first line of defense against threats that could disrupt operations or endanger personnel. Take the case of securing an airbase during heightened alert. Having an SRT on standby means they can address any potential threat before it escalates into a full-blown crisis. The training that SRT members undergo is rigorous and extensive. They learn everything from close-quarter combat to advanced firearms techniques, equipping them with skills necessary for high-stakes situations. Their training doesn't stop at just physical skills. It also emphasizes critical thinking under pressure. For instance, I recall an exercise where we simulated building clearance scenarios involving multiple hostages. This kind of realistic training prepares them for actual confrontations they might face in real-life situations. In just 11 days, D.C. has seen no homicides, a feat unheard of for decades. President Trump highlighted that violent crime overall has decreased by 22%. This isn't merely a statistic. It reflects real lives being saved and families feeling secure. For instance, robbery rates have plummeted by 46%, and carjackings have dropped an astounding 83%. People are beginning to reclaim their neighborhoods, walking freely without the fear of being attacked. During this crackdown, over 400 arrests were made, with more than 160 involving illegal aliens linked to serious crimes such as assault and drug dealing. Law enforcement also seized 59 illegal firearms from our streets. This raises an important question. If we truly care about reducing gun violence, shouldn't we be supporting efforts to remove illegal guns from circulation? You notice I stipulate illegal guns. Criminals don't do background checks. Criminals don't care about your gun laws, hence the term criminal. Washington, D.C. has some of the toughest gun laws in the country, along with New York, California, yet it was the fourth most dangerous city in the country. How about letting citizens defend themselves? Also, stop letting criminals out of prison. Did you know that in South Korea, being in possession of an illegal firearm automatically carries the death penalty? Did you know how many illegal firearms they have in South Korea? 0. Nobody steals guns. If they get caught with it, they're going to die. It's time we unite against crime rather than let political divides distract us from our common goal, safety. Moreover, we must recognize that there are allegations that D.C.'s crime statistics may have been manipulated to downplay the severity of violence in the city. Reports suggest that some felonies were reduced to misdemeanors simply to make the numbers look better. If true, this manipulation means that the situation might be even worse than we thought. Transparency is crucial if we want our communities protected and informed. I'm excited to share something very close to my heart. My new book, Veils of Prophecy, has just been released and is available on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle formats, as well as on Google Books and Google Play as an ebook and AI narrated audiobook. Today I want to take you on a journey through its pages. One of the fascinating aspects of Veils of Prophecy is its deep dive into the historical backdrop that shaped the book of Revelation. Many people see it as a cryptic text, but understanding the struggles faced by early Christians during John the Apostle's time sheds light on its true meaning. For example, imagine living under Roman rule where your faith could lead to persecution. This context helps us appreciate why John used vivid imagery, symbols that spoke powerfully to his audience's fears and hopes. In the book, I explore key themes like divine sovereignty and moral decay. These are not just ancient concepts, they resonate with our contemporary experiences. Take natural disasters, for instance. When we witness hurricanes or wildfires ravaging communities, it's easy to draw parallels with the apocalyptic visions in Revelation. Each chapter connects these events with John's prophecies, urging us to reflect on our own spiritual preparedness in light of current events. Veils of Prophecy isn't just an academic exercise. It serves as a guide for personal reflection and action. I encourage readers to ask themselves tough questions about their values and beliefs amid turmoil. For example, how do you respond when faced with moral dilemmas? This book invites you not only to understand prophecy, but also to engage actively with it in your life today. As a retired U.S. Army Infantry Staff Sergeant, I've seen my fair share of stories come and go, some heroic, some tragic, but today I want to talk about a story that's been making waves around YouTube, the saga of John McAfee, also known as the Sheriff of Baghdad. First and foremost, let's discuss the importance of integrity in our military service. When someone wears the uniform, they carry not just their own reputation, but that of all veterans. Recently, it was revealed that John McAfee may have misrepresented his military record. While he claims to have jumped into Iraq during Desert Storm in 1991, records indicate he didn't join the military until January 1991, well after the conflict had begun. This is troubling because it undermines the sacrifices made by those who served honorably during that time. Imagine telling your friends about your deployment only to find out later that your timeline doesn't add up. It's like claiming you were at a concert when you were actually at home on your couch. This kind of misrepresentation can hurt not just an individual's credibility, but also tarnish the trust we place in each other as servicemen and servicewomen. Now, let's look at what happens when someone steps out of line. In John's case, there are serious allegations regarding misconduct during his later years in service, leading to significant consequences, including revocation of his Special Forces tab and reclassification from Green Beret to infantryman. This isn't just paperwork, this is a reflection of poor judgment and personal integrity, qualities we hold dear in our community. When someone loses their special pays or security clearance due to misconduct, it raises questions about their character and ability to lead effectively. It reminds us all that actions have consequences. They ripple through our careers and affect those around us. Finally, let's consider how stories like this impact our broader veteran community. When one person misrepresents their service or faces allegations, it casts a shadow over all veterans who strive for transparency and honesty in sharing their experiences. For instance, many veterans struggle with PTSD or reintegration into civilian life while trying to maintain their dignity and honor from service. They look up to figures like John McAfee, but may feel disillusioned when they see such controversies unfold. We must remember that every veteran's story matters, whether it's one filled with glory or one filled with hardship, and we must respect those narratives without embellishment or deceit. It's happened again. A misunderstanding has emerged regarding the roles of the National Guard and the militia in our country. Today, I want to clarify this distinction because it's crucial for our understanding of national defense and civic responsibility. Let's start with the basics. According to Title 10 U.S. Code 246, the militia of the United States comprises all able-bodied males aged 17 to 45 who are citizens or intend to become citizens, as well as female citizens who are members of the National Guard. This means that you fine folks, are part of what we call the unorganized militia when not actively serving in a formal capacity. This is not just a historical footnote, it's a vital component of our national security framework. Consider times when local communities have rallied together during emergencies, hurricanes, floods, and other disasters. Citizens stepping up to help each other reflect this unorganized militia spirit, ready to act when called upon. Next, let's differentiate between organized and unorganized militias. The organized militia consists of the National Guard and Naval Militia, the formal units with trained personnel under government authority. On the other hand, unorganized militia includes those who aren't part of these formal groups but still hold a potential role in defense if necessary. During World War II, many civilians participated in civil defense efforts while also holding down regular jobs. They took on roles like air raid wardens or fire watchers, demonstrating how an unorganized militia can support national interests even without formal military training. Finally, being part of this broader definition comes with responsibilities tied directly to citizenship and civic duty. When we think about service to our country, it isn't only about wearing a uniform, it's about being prepared to contribute when needed. The modern day Community Emergency Response Teams, CERT, exemplifies this area perfectly. These groups train civilians in disaster response skills so they can assist during crises, highlighting that service comes in many forms beyond traditional military roles. I thought I should include a little assessment of my own, since everybody else is doing them online, about the American military versus Venezuela's. There are warships off the coast, or will be off the coast of Venezuela, looking for drug traffickers, and about 4,000 Marines on those ships. Now, everybody down here is making a big deal out of the supposed 4 million militia that Maduro supposedly activated, which would, according to most numbers, be 40% of the country's population. What can I say? Maduro needs more people. 4,000 Marines versus a bunch of untrained Venezuelans. Now keep in mind, Maduro doesn't care about these people at all. If they get killed by the Marines, he doesn't care at all. I don't think it's going to come to that. If Trump wanted him dead, he would just send some B-2s. He's done it before. However, Venezuela is friends with Russia, China, and Iran. Not that Iran would do much. They've already found a FAFOD. However, that's why Trump put the $50 million bounty on Maduro's head. He'd like to see his own people take charge and get rid of the dictator. However, when a people has been in fear for so long, it's hard to shake them out of it. I think part of it, too, Trump is just trying to show Lula he really doesn't care about Brazil that much. Lula is a factory worker. That's all he'll ever be. I call him Nine-Finger McGillicuddy because he's too stupid to keep his hand out of the machinery. Basically, Lula is illiterate, and Trump shouldn't even be bothered with him. Anyway, that's my take on Venezuela versus 4,000 U.S. Marines. Maduro needs more people. Let's talk about our so-called loony leftist friends and their misguided views on trade, tariffs, and the economy. Let's start with tariffs. There's this notion that there's some new concept introduced by Trump. Newsflash, tariffs have been around for ages. 170 countries use them to regulate trade. When you hear loony leftists like Mark whining about Trump's tariffs, remember that they've always existed. For instance, under Biden's administration, we didn't see any significant lifting of those tariffs on China. They remained in place. Why? Because trade isn't as simple as clicking a button. It involves strategy and negotiation. Take a look at how other countries manage tariffs. Brazil has its own set of import duties that affect agricultural products too. So when Mark claims Brazil is thriving while the U.S. suffers from Trump's policies, he's missing the bigger picture. Countries protect their interest through these very tariffs he seems to despise. Now let's talk about inflation. A hot topic these days. Our friend Mark likes to point fingers at Trump as if he alone created economic woes like inflation rates soaring to 5% or more. But here's a reality check. Inflation is influenced by many factors, including global supply chain issues and policy decisions made before he came to office, such as the auto pen printing $7 trillion. For example, Brazil has its own inflation challenges, much like we did in the U.S. during certain periods. The idea that it's all due to one person being in power is oversimplifying things dramatically. In fact, both countries face economic pressures because of their unique circumstances, not just because someone decided to impose tariffs, which haven't even taken effect yet. Finally, let's tackle loyalty, specifically loyalty to our country versus blind hatred for one individual. It seems like some folks hate Trump so much that it clouds their judgment about what's best for America. They hope the country fails, just so their narrative doesn't fall apart. Here's a thought. If you think things are better elsewhere, since you idiots are always screaming about Ukraine, why not move there? They need people. Your disdain for our country should not eclipse your love for it. If any of you leftists out there know Gavin Newsom, if you could get him a message, I think I have a solution to one of his problems. He's the governor of California, so he has the authority to do this, period. Lift the ban on plastic bags, That way the vagrants will have a place to shit. Then you won't need that poop map app on your phone anymore. Medieval problems require modern solutions. President Donald J. Trump has signed an executive order aimed at restoring respect for the American flag and ensuring that those who desecrate it are held accountable. The American flag is more than just a piece of fabric. It embodies the sacrifices made by countless individuals who fought for our freedoms. When someone chooses to desecrate this flag, it sends a message of contempt toward all those who have defended our nation. For instance, during protests in Los Angeles in June 2025, we witnessed not only acts of flag burning, but also violent behavior that threatened public safety. Such actions disrespect the memories of those who bled for this country and undermine the unity that the flag represents. In signing this executive order, President Trump directs the Attorney General to vigorously prosecute those who violate laws regarding flag desecration. This is crucial because while freedom of speech is a cornerstone of our democracy, it does not extend to actions intended to incite violence or express hostility against our nation. The Supreme Court has yet to establish that such acts fall under protected speech. By clarifying these legal boundaries, we can ensure that respect for our flag is upheld while maintaining the values enshrined in our Constitution. President Trump has taken significant steps to restore pride in both the American flag and our nation's history, from the banning of other flags at State Department facilities worldwide to launching initiatives like America 250 Commission. These actions are designed not only to celebrate what makes us unique, but also to foster a renewed sense of patriotism among all Americans. Just recently, he directed an audit of Smithsonian Institution museums so they can accurately reflect American exceptionalism without divisive narratives. Now I want to talk about a topic that affects us all: inflation. It's more than just a number. It impacts our daily lives, from grocery shopping to filling up the gas tank. Let's break down the average monthly inflation rates during President Joe Biden's and President Donald Trump's administrations and see what these numbers really mean for us. First off, let's consider the context in which these inflation rates occurred. Under Trump, from January 2017 to January 2021, inflation averaged a stable 1.9%. This stability was largely thanks to tax cuts and deregulation aimed at boosting economic growth. For example, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 put more money in consumers' pockets, leading to increased spending without significant price hikes. In contrast, Biden took office during the COVID-19 pandemic, a time of unprecedented disruption. Supply chains were strained, workers were scarce, and government spending surged as part of recovery efforts. These challenges pushed Biden's average monthly inflation rate up to 5%. The stark difference shows how external factors can dramatically shift economic conditions. Now, let's look at a monetary policy: the Federal Reserve strategies for managing the economy through interest rates. During Trump's presidency, the Fed kept interest rates low to encourage borrowing and investment. This approach helped maintain that lower inflation rate we saw earlier. When Biden came into office, however, inflation began to rise sharply due to various factors related to the pandemic recovery. In response, the Federal Reserve shifted gears and started raising interest rates to combat this inflationary pressure. While this strategic aims to stabilize prices in the long run, it also poses risks like slowing down economic growth, something we all need for a healthy economy. Finally, let's talk about how these inflation trends affect consumers directly. Under Trump's administration, with its low inflation rate of 1.9%, families enjoyed stable prices on essentials like food and gas. The stability fostered consumer confidence. People felt secure enough in their finances to spend more freely. Now consider today's reality under Biden. An average monthly inflation rate of 5% means rising prices for everyday items like groceries and fuel. Families are feeling that pinch at checkout lines across America, and it doesn't just hit their wallets, it affects their overall outlook on financial stability. As you can tell, this is an older article. I wrote it when Biden was in office. In today's polarized political climate, the economic performance of past and current administrations have become a hotbed for debate. The contrasting claims about unemployment rates and inflation under Donald Trump and Joe Biden reveal deeper truths about our economy. One of the standout achievements during Trump's presidency was the record low unemployment rate, which hit a 50-year low before COVID-19 struck. His administration's tax cuts and deregulation spurred job growth, allowing businesses to expand and consumers to spend more freely. For example, sectors like manufacturing saw significant job creation as companies thrived in a favorable economic environment. In contrast, critics argue that Biden's policies have not only failed to maintain these gains, but have also led to rising inflation that burdens American families. Under Biden, inflation has surged dramatically, approximately 40% since he took office, affecting essential goods and services from groceries to gas prices. This stark increase raises questions about the effectiveness of his administration's monetary policies. For instance, over $2 trillion was printed in response to the pandemic to support struggling businesses and individuals. While necessary at the time, many economists warn this aggressive strategy could lead to long-term economic instability if not managed carefully. The way each administration handled the COVID-19 crisis also plays a crucial role in this economic discourse. Critics often cite Trump's pandemic response. However, he did not impose nationwide lockdowns or mandates. Those decisions were left largely to states. Under Biden's leadership, despite extensive vaccination efforts, more Americans succumbed to COVID-19 than during Trump's tenure. This raises important questions about accountability and crisis management and its implications for economic stability. As we sift through these complex narratives surrounding unemployment rates, inflation, dynamics, and pandemic responses, it becomes clear that both administrations have their share of successes and failures. The stark contrast between Trump's era of job growth and stock market highs against Biden's challenges with rising prices invites us all to critically assess factors other than succumb to partisan rhetoric. Understanding these economic realities is essential for making informed decisions about our leaders' policies. We must foster a culture rooted in factual analysis rather than emotional reactions or party loyalty if we are to contribute meaningfully to discussions about our nation's future direction. This is Sean thinking out loud, and as we wrap up today's discussion, I want to remind you of something special. Every Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I invite you to tune in for The Federalists. Together, we'll dive deep into the motivations behind the U.S. Constitution as expressed by the Founding Fathers themselves. It's a journey worth taking. When we listen to the words of our Founding Fathers, we gain insight into their vision for America. For instance, James Madison emphasized the importance of checks and balances in government. This concept wasn't just a theoretical idea, it was born from their experiences with tyranny. By understanding these motivations, we can appreciate why our democratic system functions as it does today. History doesn't exist in a vacuum. It shapes our present and future. Take Thomas Jefferson's Declaration of Independence. It wasn't merely about breaking away from British rule, but establishing a new identity based on liberty and individual rights. When you tune in to the Federalists, you'll hear these historical contexts brought to life through their own words. It helps us understand that the struggles they faced are not so different from those we encounter today. In addition to political history, my interests extend to various subjects: Brazilian culture, martial arts, firearms, each offering unique lessons. For example, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu teaches us resilience. Every time you get knocked down, there's an opportunity to get back up stronger. Just like in politics or history, overcoming challenges is part of growth. As I sign off today, remember that knowledge is power. If you're intrigued by these topics or want to explore more about politics and history through my writings, whether audiobooks or ebooks, you can find them linked in the description below. In closing, let's carry forward this spirit of inquiry and engagement with our past so that we can better navigate our future together.